Greetings, gamers. It's been a while since I made an update on this. I have been working on it a lot. I just haven't really been making videos on it. So basically, what is new? Well, a lot of bug fixes. So first of all, the incredible speed that that you get from what's it called? The sorry. The incredible speed that you get from like bunny hopping, that's intentional. That's just for debugging purposes. I'll probably remove it. I intentionally put it in there. So that's not a bug, I just find it fun. Basically, like, the ground provides the deceleration. So you can't do it on like this with friction value of like 100%. Anyway, so the bug fixes that I've introduced were primarily with handling several collisions at once. So now the player properly handles collisions with like ceilings like this one. This is technically a ceiling because it is a slanted wall. And this also applies to up here, ceilings like this. Previously that didn't used to work because the math for projecting it wasn't accurate. I didn't do a great job on that. It now works. Of course, if you jump up and hit your head like that, it'll push you back. The other important thing is when I'm colliding with several. So for my floor check, what I started doing, the floor check is the thing that tells me what my floor vector is. What I've started doing is, and the only reason why I thought of this is for situations like, ironically for a situation that isn't fixed from this, but I have a feeling that's just because, you know, collision detection will never be perfect. Well, this is kind of fixed. So when I would like climb up like this, I would be like, okay, great, this is fixed. But then when I would be in a situation like that, I'd be kind of stuck. I do have a feeling strongly that this is just because of problems with like collision detection. Collision detection like outside of my responsibility, like with the physics engine of the game, like that. I don't know what the hell that is. I'll try to fix that a bit more, but for now I'm not 100% sure. Sometimes it just decides to like, it gets confused on what the normals are. But basically the idea behind what I was doing is for situations like this, for example, if we go in here, this shouldn't work, right? Or it should work intuitively, because in most games, if you're like stuck in a wedge like this, you should be able to move around. It didn't work with my previous what do you call it? It didn't work with my previous God, I don't know what's going on. Sorry, I must not have gone. I didn't get a lot of sleep. It didn't work with my previous algorithm where I just basically just pick one of the normals I'm colliding with and treat that as my floor. So if that is not if the angle between that normal and the vector 3 dot up, which is just straight up, the vector 0, 1, 0, if that was less than if that was such that it's not a floor, I'm not on the floor. But with that old algorithm, stuff like that wouldn't work. Like this like crack thing, because it wouldn't consider this to be on the floor. So what I did instead is I did like a for loop. I use a lot of for loops. So one of the for loops was, or the for loop for the floor thing, there's a for loop for another thing, but the for loop for the floor checking is basically take all the normals that I'm colliding with and add them up and then normalize. And then normalize that. And what that does is if they are unit vectors, which they are because they're normals, it will give me like the average direction, if that makes sense. So like here the normal's like poking out in that direction, and then on this one the normal's pointing out in this direction. So adding those up, adding a vector that goes like that and a vector like that, it'll end up doing a vector that goes like this. Which is good because that vector, which I call the average vector, is then what I want to calculate to see if we're on the floor or not. And that is what permits, that's what allows movement in things like this. The original reason why I wanted to do this was to solve like situations like this, but unfortunately this is just a bit buggy, and I have a feeling that's because the normals aren't being reported properly. Like I don't know what the hell is happening here or why I'm floating. I'll have to try to look into that. Like right now I'm in this weird like state where I'm not on the floor but I'm like, I don't know. I'll have to look into this. This is a really weird, like, ghost state. I'm not on a wall. I'm not on a floor. I'm not on anything. Well, I am on a wall. It considers me on a wall, but I'm not, there's no wall normal, so it's a little bit just fucked. It fixes itself eventually. Anyway, one thing that is weird with the collision detection is this situation. This situation I do have a handling for. Basically, whenever I'm moving around. So over here, for example. Oh, hang on. Okay, that. It's a bit broken. Hang on. Okay, so the idea behind this one was I do a for loop that slides, that basically does a sliding algorithm, which is this thing. Where it'll take like the tangent, the cross product, which will give me a tangent, and then I slide along that. So I try to slide along all of them to handle like issues where I have one thing here and one thing there. What I may try to do instead is I may try to do another average, where like I'm averaging this vector and that vector. Because right now, and this might also be a limitation of the physics engine because for some reason in this specific orientation with my like shape in this position, like in this orientation with a flat face touching a wall and a corner touching a slope like this, the wall sometimes doesn't get reported when it should. Like you see how it like just like flicks on whether it gets detected or not, like the not the on wall but the wall collision normal. It's really weird. So yeah, I'll try to work on that a bit more, like walking into corners like this. It just like it can't decide on just making the vector 0. Which is not a good thing because we want it to be 0 for the footsteps to stop playing because we're not moving. I could also just do a difference. Instead of using velocity to handle the footstep sounds, I could also just simply, what's it called? Use a difference in position to like interpret the velocity from that. That could work, but I just want it to be like as robust and flawless as possible. So I'm not 100% happy with just that just yet. Yeah. So I'll keep working on it a bit. Maybe the sliding on all the normals is not a great idea. Maybe I'll try to do the average of them again. But in the meantime, I'm very, very happy with this progress. There is a thing with the physics engine that is a little bit annoying, and that is sometimes if I'm... So, okay. In the floor collision detection... Sorry. In the floor collision detection, we're moving down, perfectly down, and we're trying to see what like the floor is like. Basically, if this check fails, then we will go over here. So I think we can actually put this safely. Let me just double check. Okay, so yeah, if this check fails, what this is if we don't find a floor collision normal, so this used to be an issue before I even did these changes, but now it's going to seem a little bit weird because of the whole like taking the average. Basically, the idea is sometimes it's not considering the thing that we're colliding with the floor, because sometimes this snap ground check will trigger if we're like on a wall and like sliding down the wall, which is I think a problem with the physics engine, just because our vector or like velocity vector is straight down and the wall is straight down, so there shouldn't be really it shouldn't really be detecting collisions from the side, but it does sometimes. And so that's why we have to like check to make sure that it is actually a floor. But even this check sometimes fails, which is weird. The check sometimes fails, and when it fails, we are in like this weird point in space where we're only it can only see the tiny wall. So for example, a stair, like if I uncheck this, you'll see the issue. If I uncheck this, it fixes it, but it does other things, because if I uncheck that, then if I move like very slowly down a slope, there's going to be a brief period in time when like around there, when it considers itself only colliding with the wall, which is this stair, this like stair right there, and it does not see in that collision check, despite there being multiple collision like attempts, it does not see this floor, this flat surface here. So the only normal that's being reported is like pointing this way, so obviously it's not the floor, so it instantly fails. And then the second it fails, everything stops, because once it fails, I set the snap vector to 0 and this stops running, because it defaults to the falling state, which is in this else here. This else is if the normal is equal to vector 3.0, the snap vector. And we have to do this check because that way when I press the space bar, we don't want to do the snap checks, because we know we're supposed to be in the air. When I receive knockback or when I press the space bar, we want to detach from the ground temporarily. So it'll detach us and then run this code, which doesn't snap us. This code just like makes us fall and then tests the move and collide results to give us a new snap vector, or to tell us if we should start using a snap vector again if we touch a floor, or slide us along a wall while we're in midair. So basically the issue is if the physics engine isn't like consistently perfect in every situation, if there is one like tiny 0.0001% like chance for a miscalculation, everything goes down and we start falling down the stair, that specific stair step. This is fixed by just removing this, but removing this causes another issue where sometimes when we're going to be like on a wall like this one, if you take a look at like the snap vector there, it doesn't change to 0 because we are constantly colliding with something in its opinion. And that something is this wall. And we can't trust that this is a wall and not a step, because like sometimes it'll not do it. Like there it didn't do it, there it worked fine, there it did do it. Like even when we're just falling down a slope, like there it did do it, no it didn't, didn't, did it, no, didn't do it. I just stepped on this. Yeah, it's just very inconsistent, and this will probably just get better as the physics engine improves, as like the low-level collision detection things improve. Another thing that's with the collision detection is like this should be something that I should be able to step on. The checks are the same. Like see, it works on this side because the code for it is the same, but the trace function just has issues with this specific collision, and this might be due to the convex collision shape bug that I put on GitHub. It's just very small things where sometimes even like when we're walking on this, like look at the normal, it's like having a stroke, and that's just because this is the same thing as that, or as like these, and it's the same issue that causes like inaccuracies in the like that. Inaccuracies when we're like on an edge, on an edge of a face of a complex collision shape. This, believe it or not, is a complex collision shape. So it's just a rectangle because it's it is involved with it's a CSG mesh. So CSG mesh is basically just a real-time rendered thing of this like tree. It's the same thing as this tree, but rendered like real time instead of being an asset with a pre-existing mesh. But yeah, overall, I'm super happy with my work on this. I think that it's almost done. The only that's a thing with right now I have it to that's not a bug. So I have it set so that I don't need to let go of the spacebar to constantly test for a jump. So I can just hold the spacebar and it jumps like as optimally as possible. Which is just fun. I like it. It's just like I just enjoy doing this when I'm bored. But what that means is like when we're walking on a slope, we constantly accelerate. I can easily fix this by simply having the jump function not move us in the direction we're moving. Right now, I kind of lunge instead of jump. Instead of going like straight up, we kind of gain a little bit of forward velocity when we jump, just because I found it fun. But it's not going to stay because it's not very balanced. Especially because when we're like going on a slope, we're like colliding much more frequently, so we just gain insane speed and it's really fun. I tried to make it to get like Quake style acceleration working, but I wasn't really able to. And I didn't really want to in the end, because this right here is all the thing that handles like acceleration and like acceleration, so that if we're like going in the opposite direction we're moving in, we stop instantly but then can't accelerate. But if we're like slightly strafing, then we can go a little bit faster, like change our direction a bit faster and accelerate faster. That's just all of this is what decides which linear interpolation function to use for our acceleration, and I just think it's helpful, and I think it feels really good after like doing a bunch of testing. It feels good because, like, for example, like we jump and then we can like cancel our movement like that by going in the opposite direction. But if we press like that, then we can like kind of turn in midair. But if we like fuck up our movement like this, then we can't really like... Basically, we can like slightly adjust our velocity while in the air, but if we go in the opposite direction, we kind of screw ourselves over. So like now I can't move because I've like locked myself. If you play around with like the way that TF2 plays and other Source Engine games, this is kind of similar. It's not exact, but it's kind of similar and a little bit less buggy because you can't really, or you have more control over like bunny hopping and shit. I like this a lot. Anyway, that's about it for that update. I found an individual that may be able to do like assets. He's very passionate about like 3D modeling and like map making. So what I'm gonna try to do next is probably like get together like tools for making like maps for Godot that would be easy for him to use. Like I want like just like a map editor for the engine. Kind of like how Hammer is. A terrain editor would also be very useful. I don't really know why it's not a default node yet. They should add that instead of it being a plugin. And yeah, and then I'll just work a bit more on networking, and that should be most of the game, to be honest. Then it's just like game design, and all the hard work is basically done. So thank you for watching, and I hope you had a happy New Year or whatever. Goodbye.